Human birth is, by almost any measure, a catastrophic design failure. A gorilla does it alone, in the dark, in silence, in under an hour. Horses, dolphins, whales, all of them, easier, faster, less dangerous. And then there's us. Human labor averages 8 to 12 hours for a first birth. It requires another person to be present, almost uniquely among all primates. And it carries a maternal mortality risk no other great ape comes close to. This is not bad luck. This is a collision between two completely separate evolutionary accidents, neither of which had any idea the other existed. To understand why birth is this hard, you first have to understand what birth actually is. It's a geometry problem. A large object, the baby's head, must pass through a fixed bony ring. In most mammals, this isn't really a problem. Plenty of room. In humans, the clearance is sometimes less than a centimeter. How did we end up here? We have to go back about 7 million years, to a moment nobody planned, nobody chose. A random mutation changed how a pelvis was shaped, and suddenly, walking upright became cheaper. Not better, necessarily, just cheaper. That is all evolution needs. Bipedalism spread, it stuck, it won. But the pelvis that makes walking upright efficient is not the pelvis you want for birth. The bowl-shaped pelvis redirects load. It holds organs. It anchors muscle. And it narrows the birth canal as a side effect nobody asked for. Evolution didn't choose this. It just didn't stop it. The cost, a tighter birth canal, wasn't high enough yet to stop bipedalism from spreading. So the narrow pelvis became fixed in the lineage, locked in. That was accident number 1. Now we skip forward about 5 million years, and something strange starts happening to the skull. The brain starts growing. Fast. The Australopithecine brain was about 450 cubic centimeters. Modern human brains average 1,350 cubic centimeters, 3 times larger. In evolutionary terms, almost overnight. Why? Nobody completely knows. That's the honest answer. Social complexity, tool use, language, probably all three feeding each other. Each advantage made bigger brains slightly more useful. Slightly more useful was enough to keep it going. And nobody asked what happens when the baby's skull has to fit through the pelvis. That was accident number 2. Now they meet. A narrow pelvis. An enormous head. Both of them the result of pressures that had nothing to do with each other. The result is what biologists call the obstetrical dilemma. The pelvis can't widen much further without breaking the hip mechanics that make walking efficient. And the brain can't get much smaller without losing the cognitive complexity that makes us, us. Evolution found itself trapped, locked between 2 previous decisions, so it found the only exit it could. It began delivering babies earlier. A human newborn is, by mammalian standards, absurdly premature. A foal is walking within an hour of birth. A human baby can't hold up its own head for 3 months. A human baby can't walk for 12 months. A chimpanzee is socially independent within 2 years. Humans take 20. We are born with brains that are only about 30% of their adult size. Every other primate is born at around 50 to 60%. We are shipping an unfinished product because it's the only way the skull fits. And even then, it barely fits. The human skull has evolved to be literally unfused at birth. The skull plates overlap and compress as the baby moves through the canal. The head that emerges is often visibly misshapen. It reforms over the next few days. This is not a flaw, this is an adaptation. The skull evolved to be compressible specifically because the birth canal got too narrow. And there's another adaptation. The baby rotates. In almost every other primate, the baby descends facing forward, easy for the mother to grab and guide. In humans, the baby rotates twice and emerges facing backward, which means the mother physically cannot guide the baby out herself. If she tries to pull, she risks bending the baby's spine the wrong way. This is why humans almost universally have birth attendants. Midwifery is one of the oldest human professions. Not by choice, by anatomical necessity. Now, here's the part most people stop and ask, why didn't selection just fix this? Widen the pelvis, solve the problem. But wider hips change the walking gait dramatically. Wider hips mean the femur attaches at a wider angle. That angle increases the lateral force on every step. More force means more energy burned per kilometer. For a species that survived by walking long distances every day, that cost matters. The pelvis is already wider than it ideally would be. anymore, and the cost tips the balance. Evolution is stuck. There's a second answer too, and it's more recent. A 2015 study proposed what's called the energy hypothesis. The argument, birth timing isn't just about the baby's head. It's about calories. A human fetus grows at an extraordinary rate in the final trimester. Sustaining it for 9 months already pushes human metabolic capacity to its limit. Go much longer, and the mother's metabolism physically cannot keep up. So birth timing is under pressure from two directions at once: the obstetrical dilemma and the metabolic wall, hitting at the same time. This is why humans are born so early, so helpless, and so dependent. And here is where it gets genuinely strange. That extreme helplessness, that extended dependency, may have been the whole game. Because a baby born with a 30% brain is a brain that grows outside the womb. And outside the womb, the environment shapes what grows. The human brain is literally sculpted by experience in a way no other primate's is. It is the most plastic, most adaptable neural architecture ever evolved. The brutal birth, the helpless infant, the dependency, it all leads here. The longest childhood of any animal, the most social species on Earth. The species that builds cities and writes symphonies and makes this video, all of it downstream of two accidents that didn't know about each other. Nobody planned the narrow pelvis. Nobody planned the giant brain. Nobody chose to put them together. They just collided. And what came out of the collision was us. There is one more thing worth knowing. The fourth trimester. Scientists now talk about the first 3 months after birth as a quasi-external trimester. The brain development that should have happened in the womb happens outside it. Carried, held, fed constantly. Human infants need to be held almost continuously. This is not neediness. This is a biological requirement for the correct completion of brain development. Touch, sound, rhythm, faces, all of it writes directly to the developing neural architecture. The brutal birth didn't break the system. It moved part of the system outside. And that external development is why humans are culturally transmissible in a way nothing else is. The narrow birth canal didn't just make birth hard, it made culture possible. That is the loophole. A design flaw so bad it unlocked a completely different kind of mind. A catastrophe that no one designed, no one planned, no one asked for. And the gorilla is still doing fine, alone, in the dark, in under an hour. If you found the mechanism interesting, the next video goes deeper into what else the narrow pelvis changed. Subscribe if you want the mechanism, not just the myth. The gorilla didn't need this video. You did.